Lovely,
Thank
lovely,
you,
Oscar.
Andre.
There are many occasions when I'm glad that I'm a conductor, but never more than at this moment.
Don't say that.
Oh, no, it's true. It's true. That's
Thank you.
lovely. That's lovely. Listen, before we even talk about anything, when you just lately started wanting to play alone a lot as opposed to, with a trio, any particular reason for that?
Well, yeah, there's several reasons apart from any coercion from people like the late Duke Ellington and Norman Granz. Was the fact that, as you well realize, it's one thing to play with a group in which there are certain restrictions and regimentations that you have to follow so that they know where you're at and you know where they're at, you hope. Mm-hmm. But also selfishly, when we play at home, as I'm sure you do, and we start experimenting with tunes, I know I've had the feeling that different times that I'd wanted to go possibly harmonically or rhythmically or melodically another way, even just for 2 bars, 4 bars. Mm. And some of these things that come across to me, you can't possibly transmit that quickly to a group, as you can realize. You're playing a tune and you agree, it's sort of a pact that we're going to play the tune this way within certain confines. And if I were to go out, or you were to go out and suddenly take a left turn on a one-way street, it becomes a little hazardous in the group, and what you end up with is dishevelment.
Yeah, but it's one thing to play alone as a classical pianist, obviously, but as a jazz pianist, especially if you've been used for years to hearing, bass and drums or bass and guitar, and all of a sudden you say, "What's this? Oh, it's a left hand, right? I remember this." It must really get to be a hang-up once in a while. Not for you, but
No, it is. I think the left hand is in the things that the seminars that I've conducted in various parts of the world, this is the one hang-up that most pianists have, because it's sort of a quiet brainwashing process that takes place when a pianist gets in a group, right? And he has a good bass player and a good drummer, hopefully, or a guitarist, and he's quietly brainwashed into using less and less of this, especially if he has a guitarist, because they start saying, "You're getting in my way. Don't play that much with your left hand." So he withdraws this, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing you know, suddenly, let's say it's a local pianist, he suddenly gets a job in a cocktail lounge, right? Now he's forced to play body and soul that he would ordinarily play like this, right? And the bass player is going,
Right.
right?
Yes.
So constantly when he gets into the cocktail lounge, he starts playing, the first playing might sound like You've heard those pianists, you can tell right away, right?
I can even tell you who they are.
One thing is we were talking earlier about some of the pianists, particularly Art Tatum. They had a way of, what's the word they use? Subliminally, musically making you hear something that they didn't play.
I was already worried about what I did here.
Well, but Art could do this. Art could play, he would lead you down the garden path with a certain left-hand procedure, let's say, and all of a sudden he wouldn't play like, he might play, then leave this one out and play, and according to how he voiced it, you would swear you'd automatically heard it,
Well, even worse than that, I think that on some of those records I could hear a bass player, not a left hand, but an actual bass player, and he wasn't there.
That's what you call coming through, right?
Yeah, that's what I call it.
Really
now,
coming through.
That's funny, because I wasn't actually going to talk about Art yet, but I don't think it's possible to talk about jazz piano without talking about him. How far back was he an influence on you?
Well, Art Tatum came into my life, I can now say happily. At the time, I had to say unhappily when I was in my teens, and I had not to make this a thing on me, but I know my first bruising with Art Tatum came at a very tender age in my teens, when my dad originally was a sailor and taught himself organ and taught us piano, started us, and he farmed us out, and I got into the jazz thing, and I thought I was pretty heavy at school, and just going through, I'd play lunch hours and have all the chicks around the auditorium.
Good.